is everyone this evening?
Well, how are you?
Weather's getting nice. So tonight we are going to review and vote on recommendations on the articles for the annual town meeting. Do you want to walk us through these, or do you want me to walk through them?
Nope, I
or-
can walk us through it.
Okay.
You just respond to it on first.
Did we do a block vote, we were wondering last year, or did we vote for each one?
I think we went through each one.
We did?
Yeah.
I think we did.
We don't, some of them we kind of say, hey.
Refer to voters, yeah, if they're not
depending
really
upon whether it's not
financial.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so. So Article 1 and Article 2 is usually what we call consent articles. So those are articles that we normally just pass unanimously at town meeting. The first one is basically the town officer's book. Every single department puts it into one book and they just accept it as one. And the second one is that if the Mass DOT ever wants to do work in town with our DPW, is that they're just automatically authorized. This is an old article, probably not even necessary anymore, but it's just the town culture, we do it. Article 3, you have in essence already approved this one because this has to do with budgetary. You've already passed your budget, but this sets the salaries for elected officers because you have to do that as established by Mass General Law. And all of these salaries are the same as they've been in the past. It shows which elected officers are paid and which elected officers are not paid. Article 4 is your budget. You've already voted on that.
So, sorry, should we be voting on these as we go through? I
You
think
know-
that was Mo's question, was should we do them all at once, or?
You're right. I get whatever you prefer. I can explain it, and if somebody wants to hold it, I guess hold it, and if not, maybe you could take one full vote at the end saying that
Okay.
you're in favor.
Yep.
And, okay.
That works.
Article 5 is your annual article in reference to your exemptions for the Board of Assessors. Nothing changes in that from year to year. Article 6 is the acceptance of Chapter 90 funds from the State Highway Fund. So this year, the town will receive $323,000. It goes to the DPW department, and they use it for all purposes under Chapter 90, roads, paving, that type of stuff. Article 7 starts your Community Preservation Act monies. So in Article 7, these are your appropriations, so you can spend up to $10,750 for administrative expenses. That money is going into that account and is not being used. When you see 0, open space, historic, and undesignated, that means for FY23, that means the money that is being placed into that bucket through the monies collected are being spent. That's why they're 0. Under Community Housing Reserve, there's $21,500. That means that money is not being spent. So that will roll over into future years in that quote-unquote bucket. Article 8. This is a new article about 3 years ago. The state, as it continues to run surpluses, they will appropriate money after, called a supplemental budget in the fall, specific to community preservation. So this is an additional $6,051 that was not received last year that they are sending to the town now. So all you're doing is authorizing it to be received in, so that way we can spend it at a later date. Article 9 is for Friendship Park. I believe this is the last year. There might be one more year, but you recall a handful of years ago we did the work. We borrowed it over 5 years. This is your debt service. Article 10, we have not done a lot with housing in the past. And so for Article 10, we will spend $125,000 at the senior buildings up on Esther Drive. Article 11 is to place an APR, or agricultural preservation restriction, on the Shady Oak Howard Farm on River Street. It will cost us $36,000. We don't know how much the state is paying, but apparently the state will be picking up the difference. It's 62 acres or so at that location. And the way an APR works is that the state will put the restriction on it. That means it must be farmed in perpetuity. So the person retains ownership of the farm, they collect a check, but in return they say that they will never be able to sell it or use it for anything else other than a farm. So that way you're able to conserve open space. Article 12, this was a last minute change at CPC. There's $125,000 for stone repair at War Memorial Park. Originally, when Shell came in, there was going to be an article for cemetery work. We had, over the past couple of years, been doing work at our cemeteries. But unfortunately, in February, a piece of a wall at War Memorial Park actually collapsed. And it's become it's become a dangerous situation. We're fearful that it will continue to collapse, and we have that area under caution tape. If it collapses, a whole section is going to come with it. So we have to get it fixed. So we've had a vendor in the past, so he's looking for that to fix that wall.
And we're pretty sure we can do it for that.
I don't know that. I think he still has to go out to bid. He's just got a couple of verbal quotes on it.
So what happens if we need 130 or 140?
So what we'll do is we'll spend the $125,000 to get as much done of it as we can, and then we'd have to come back to town meeting to get more money.
Okay.
Article 13, we've created the old Memorial Day Veterans Committee. We have changed the name of it to the Veterans Legacy Committee. And they're looking for $5,000 because they want to take plaques, purchase them from the state, identify as to who was a veteran in town. They'll do that through a state list, and they'll go out to all the cemeteries and install these plaques. So as you walk through the cemeteries, you'll know who is a veteran. That'll be the end of your CPC articles. Article 14, we do this just about every year. Last year was one year that we skipped, but this is for our OPEB liability or other post-employment benefits. Most private companies have this now. Municipal governments weren't required to fund it in the past, and under new GASB rules about 5 years ago, they are now requiring us to make a good faith effort. So this is for retirees that have to do with long-term health insurance costs. So we'll put $100,000 into that account. Article 15 is an annual match. The WEB task force stands for West Bridgewater, East Bridgewater, and Bridgewater. It is basically the drug task force for the 3 Bridgewaters. Each town kicks in X amount of dollars along with the state. It allows us to be able to do whatever we need to do in reference to, like a local DEA. Article 16, annual article to put $150,000 into a construction for sidewalks fund. Article 18. I'm sorry.
Are we spending all that on the sidewalks, or is it building up? Or, I mean, not that 150 goes far on a sidewalk.
We normally spend most of it.
We've been spending it.
Article 17 is a transfer from the state of $1,389. A couple of years ago, this first appeared when somebody in West Bridgewater does an Uber or a Lyft, there's a small fee that is associated with that. That fee is collected from the state and then forwarded off to each municipality. So we're receiving $1,389. The restriction on the money, and it has to go to something pertaining to infrastructure for transportation. So we just think it's wise, we'll just add that back into our sidewalk fund and continue to do sidewalks. Article 18, start your capital budget projects. So Article 18 is $462,000 to build a new transfer station building at the transfer station. That will be a borrowing article that will require a 2/3 vote.
So do we want to talk about any of these?
I was going to say I want to hold that if we're not going to talk about it now.
All right, so let's hold it.
Because I think we had, I think it was Jeff, Scott, and Jim on the capital budget.
Yeah.
So maybe you folks can fill us in on what the subcommittee.
The discussion, yeah.
We'll come back to it.
Discuss.
That's what, are we doing it now or later?
Why don't we hold, do you want to go through them all and
Yeah.
Just do the.
Yeah, let's just get
and come
hold
back?
on.
Okay,
See how many holes we got.
okay.
Article 19 is for the DPW department to purchase a new plow truck and to replace their old one, and you would be using free cash.
Okay, let's hold on that one so we can.
That was 19.
Mhm.
All right. Article 20 is for the DPW to purchase a new John Deere tractor.
Okay,
Again, that would be free cash.
let's hold on that one.
Article 21 is for the police department to replace their 2005 motorcycle and replace it with a new one. Again, that would be free cash.
Okay, let's check on that one.
Article 22 is for the police department to replace an old cruiser and replace it with a new one. Again, that would be free cash.
Okay.
Article 23 is for the fire department on a FEMA match grant. So FEMA is willing to give us $234,000 to be appropriated for the American Firefighters grant. Basically, it's for whatever he needs for fire-related safety items within the building. In order for us to qualify for it, we need to have a 5% match. So we kick in 5%. The math is $11,724, and the federal government then will give us $234,000. It is a competitive grant. It is not a guarantee. So he has applied for it. He needs to submit this because you cannot use your budget to be able to augment the grant request. It has to be additional funds. But I am sure that we would all spend 11 grand to get 234 all day long. If we do not receive the grant, the money that does not get spent.
And where does the money go?
It just sits in the account.
Okay.
Article 24 is for the Council on Aging to replace their current van. And again, this would be free cash, and the amount is $56,000.
So they only have one van, right?
They have two vans.
Two
One
vans.
is a lease through BAT, that Brockton Area Transit, and this one here is the one that they own.
Okay.
Article.
Yeah, we're gonna come back.
Yeah, we can come back to
A
that.
little hold
Yep.
on that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Article 25 is for the Council on Aging to have their parking lot seal coated and line painted. That would come out of free cash as well. Article 26.
Hold that one and talk about that one.
On 25, we're holding?
Yeah, just
Okay.
don't understand the discussion
Okay.
that folks had on the capital budget. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Article 26 is from the IT department looking to upgrade the town's Wi-Fi system. Again, that would come out of free cash. Article 27 is from the IT department to upgrade the town's server. And again, that would come out of free cash.
Do we know how old the current server is?
I do.
No.
I believe the numbers.
Yeah.
It was all running 2008 software.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's right.
Way overdue.
That's antique in the software space, right?
Honestly, it's not the best thing to do because we're not replacing the server, we're just upgrading the software.
Oh. Do you want to talk about that?
We can. I don't think there's a choice.
Okay.
No, we really didn't.
Because that software is going to come to end of life and it won't be supported, so you're going to need to move on to new software. Question probably should have been asked a while ago is, should it be a new server that came with new software? But
Yeah.
I think at this point there is no choice.
Okay.
Article 28 is for IT to replace computer workstations at the Council on Aging. That comes out of free cash. Article 29 is a school-related one for a generator at the Roselle McDonald School. That would come out of free cash.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that one in the next two.
Article 30 is for a new boiler at the middle school, high school. That would come out of free cash. Article 31 would be for new HVAC controls at the middle school, high school. That would come out of free cash. Article 32 starts your water capital budget items. The first one would come out of water surplus, and this is for a new gate operating machine. Article 33 is for a tank water age assessment altitude valve system at North Elm. That would be a borrowing article.
Ooh, wow. That's a big one.
Do we have any more information on these ones? Were these talked about at the capital
Yeah,
budget?
they copped out of the capital budget. We don't have a choice.
We don't have any choice?
They can't fill the tanks unless they get these valves done in both of them.
Okay.
You know, for them to top off. Right now, the tank on Walnut Street, correct me if I'm wrong, is only going to about 3/4 of the way.
So it
That's
doesn't have the
correct.
power to pump it up full.
Because neither of the tanks have enough power to run and pump them both up,
Yeah,
once the one up on, and I believe it's on North Elm Street, once that one's topped off, water will diverse itself automatically and fill the other tank also,
okay,
so that they'll both be full.
yeah.
Article 34 and 35 are basically the same article, just two different wells.
Okay.
Article 34 is the well at Sear Street and Norman Ave, and Article 35 is the one at Manley Street. Both locations eventually are going to have some type of water treatment plant that's going to have to be associated with them. And so in order for them to make future mitigation efforts, they have to go through a pilot study, be approved through DEP. So in Article 34, that pilot study is going to cost $240,000. In Article 35, it would be $193,000. And all of those would be borrowing articles as well. And again,
Mm.
borrowing articles will require a 2/3 vote at town meeting.
Yeah, they just paid off a bunch of stuff, right?
They did.
And is that PFAS?
Not necessarily PFAS. It'll be for
No.
PFAS, but also be for iron and manganese.
Okay,
Article 36 is going to be for a new position of the town planner. This will become a new department head under the Board of Selectmen. I think I've spoken to some of you about it. It's a position we really need, and I put it as a separate standalone article because I thought from a transparency standpoint it made sense, so that way people would know that we're looking to do. The salary surveys are coming in between 95 and 110. So we think that when we comp it, that'll be about the number. Obviously, you don't know until you see who applies. But we put in $125,000 because that person's gonna need a desk, it's gonna need a computer, it's gonna be some other items I'm not
Space.
thinking about. Space is certainly going to be an issue. We're gonna have to work some issues out. But the first thing we have to do is get it funded.
right.
You know, I know somebody's gonna say, where are you gonna put this person? What do you get? And honestly, I've invested very little time, because if the town doesn't support it, it was a waste of
A
time
waste of time. We've
to
got
to
other
go and
things
try
to
to
do,
figure
yeah.
that part out, so.
Remote.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So,
I'm sure we can figure it out,
well,
right?
we have to figure it out at that
Right.
point, correct. I mean, so anyway, so that's what we put in. And that would be raise and appropriate. So I did that. Whenever you see raise and appropriate, that means it's on taxation. And that's important for the Finance Committee to know, because if I paid for it through a different source, I would be $125,000 in the hole in the budget next year, because you'd have to make up for that. So this is going into your budget, but it's not going into that Article 4 budget. It's just the way we're going to pay for it, so we don't hurt our budgets going forward. Article 37 is a general bylaw. Normally, you guys will refer to voters on zoning bylaws, not necessarily on general bylaws, but again, it's your choice. Currently, our bylaw is written in, you'll see where it is bold and crossed out or what the changes are. The issue is that I'm gonna ask you just to skip a little bit ahead, and it's going to say, on the bottom of the page, it says D, Board, the Board of Selectmen shall be the enforcement authority of this bylaw. When this was written, it was envisioned that everybody would follow the personnel bylaw. But it excluded, up in section 1, it excluded the school committee and their members, employees governed by a collective bargaining agreements, employees with separate employment contracts where those provisions are regulated. So we are not deleting anything with schools, because school has a mass general law. The school superintendent has sole authority to be able to do what he or she does, and the school committee has sole authority to do what they want to do with the school superintendent. It's a established mass general law, so that is going to remain as is. It wasn't envisioned when this bylaw was done that we were going to have separate employment contracts with a water superintendent or principal assessor or a Board of Health agent. So what's happened through the years is that those respective elected boards have not necessarily followed all the same guidelines. And there's been no checks and balances on that. So I would prefer not, in reference to collective bargaining agreements, that can be crossed out because only the selectmen by Mass General Law can sign a collective bargaining agreement, so they always had full flexibility to make changes. So the way we envision this bylaw to work in reality is that if you are, say, for example, the Board of Assessors, the Board of Assessors decide to write a contract for an employee, they follow this bylaw, the selectmen are then going to just ratify the contract. They decide not to follow the bylaw, and I'm going to give you an example in a moment that's a true example. They decide not to follow it, then they have to get the Board of Selectmen approval. Because, for example, this bylaw really envisions all kind of out-of-college new hires. There's really no distinction here between department heads and traditional employees or rank-and-file employees. You know, if somebody comes out of college and they get hired as a clerical staff, you understand that they start in where they start. But if I'm going to hire a fire chief with 28 years of experience and bring that person over, I can't say you have to wait 2 years to get a week's vacation. You'll
Right.
never, right?
That
That's in a
won't
step,
work, yeah.
it won't work.
That won't fly.
So, we understand that. So quite frankly, the thought process is that we should bring it back before the Personnel Board, which according to D is the Board of Selectmen, so that way they can say, look we're hiring an assessor, the person has 11 years of experience, they're looking for 3 weeks vacation, the bylaw says 1, but we're gonna give 3, well, that's a legitimate request. And truthfully, if this gets passed, one of the items I'm going to ask the Board of Selectmen to do is I really think that we should come up with a guideline to be able to help the elected boards. So we can say, look, if you're going to hire a person and you want to bring a department head in, it's acceptable to bring them in a 3 or 4 weeks vacation if they have that experience. I mean, when I started here, I had 20 years experience managing a company. I wouldn't have started here if you said I had to wait 2 weeks to get a vacation, right? Neither would have you. I mean, you know, we all hate getting older, but one of the benefits of getting older is that we have the experience, and so people will give you what you deserve.
Because you have
So-
more value as an employee.
Yeah, so,
I do remember when that was the deal, though, when I would switch jobs, started all over again, had no recourse, really.
right.
But that's changed.
Well, and again.
It should.
Yeah, it should. So anyway, so all this is saying is, and it really only affects 6 positions at this point. It's all it affects. But I'm sure that those boards are probably not going to be entirely happy or comfortable with it. In full disclosure, I'll tell you who they are, in that way you're aware. But it would affect the Board of Health. The Board of Health has a Board of Health agent that a contract is signed with the Board of Health. Now, all the department heads under the Board of Selectmen already have language in there as to what the selectmen have determined for benefits, mostly tied to this. There's some variations, but mostly tied to this. And the Board of Health has done the same. They've been very, very good. The Board of Assessors, with their principal assessor, I'd rather not get into any more details, but obviously we know that there's been some ongoing benefit issues with that position in the past. Doesn't mean it will in the future. The library has 2, a director and an assistant director. And the water department has a superintendent and an assistant superintendent, or office manager, I'm sorry. So again, I don't think anyone's looking to try to micromanage, but we cannot have, which is, this is a real scenario, we cannot have a department head in town like our police chief, who's been here for 33 years, and he gets 30 days vacation. That's what it says in here. After 25 years, you get 5 weeks vacation. It's 25 days. And another elected board brings somebody new in and says he has 40 vacation days. And that's really happening.
Yeah, that
And
would really, yeah.
We can't, I
Rub your
mean,
nose in it.
in my opinion, now again, they're elected. And if everybody's comfortable with that, then this will lose, and that's okay. The town will speak at that point. But it's
As long as they
our,
understand.
but it's our attempt to be able to say that we have some checks and balances and that we just have very similar benefits throughout. And if there is an exception to be made, let's just have some transparency on it. I mean, again, I understand that the board can always be different personalities in the future, but I honestly believe the 3 members that are on the board right now are pretty reasonable. And if you're gonna bring in a water superintendent with 15 years of experience, you've got to give him a legitimate benefits package.
He won't
He'll never
work. Yeah,
come.
he won't come, that's
Exactly.
right.
And-
This has nothing to do with money. This doesn't have anything to do with salaries. This has to do with the benefits.
Yeah.
But we've
I'm-
been doing it, though. Have we been, or are we sticking by the,
I think what David's saying, it's
Rules.
been uneven.
It's
It
been
has been
uneven.
The
So
Bringing
right-
in
department
people
heads
with,
have
yeah.
made their own
made their own rules?
They have.
decisions, yeah.
What's important, I'm so sorry.
With
I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt.
well, just with a little bit of unfairness, right, is what I've seen.
The other thing is when I started here, we had a lot of lawsuits with personnel issues. Some of you that have been around know that. We really don't have many at this point. Knock on wood, I'll probably get hit with one tomorrow. But one of the things that we have done, and it's not just me, department heads and others, we've all worked together on this issue, is that we have an extremely robust professional hiring process. Like, we don't skip steps. We do full backgrounds. I mean, heck, we hired you and we did a background, right? I mean, and I can honestly tell you that we didn't always do that in the past. So some of our biggest litigation issues in the past has been ongoing personnel issues. And in order to try to get ahead of that, you can't always, sometimes you make mistakes and people change, but you try to have a really good hiring process. We can't guarantee that there will be legitimate hiring processes with these other boards in the future. So it's the Board of Selectmen's attempt to be able to say, look we now have an HR director. When you want to hire someone, we're going to follow a hiring process so we can make sure, and we can tell the town, a lot of these positions are six-figure jobs right now. So we should be able to tell the town, we are really hiring the best person, not just because they live in town, not just because they know someone, not just because they're related to someone. If they happen to live in town and they're related and they know someone and they're the best person, great.
Great.
They should get it.
Yes,
But that should not be the criteria.
right.
And so this gives the Board of Selectmen, on a checks and balances standpoint, the ability to do that.
What did we do in the past? There wasn't a process.
There was not so people would just hire whoever they chose to hire, and
Gotcha.
if they followed the process, they did. If they didn't, they didn't. I'm not saying everybody doesn't. I mean, for example, the library just recently hired a new library director. They did a really good job. They followed the real
Yeah.
process. They posted for it. They did all of those things. So we're not saying that everybody is guilty or would be guilty, but this is a way to be able to guarantee that we have one structure moving forward.
Yeah.
If we get sued in the future, because we have some litigation, when that lawsuit comes in, they don't file lawsuit against the Board of Health. They file it against the town of West Bridgewater. And if we say in court, well, it's really not our fault, they did, that's not gonna play.
No.
No.
We're an employer.
Right.
So, again, no accusations of wrongdoing at any level. We're just trying to make sure we have
Clean it
a
up, yeah.
streamlined, professional process going forward.
Save the town money,
In the long run.
avoid litigation.
And then Article 38 is to accept a handful of roads. I don't know a lot about them. I will just tell you that Hugh Hurley, I have the utmost respect for. And if Hugh says that these roads are ready to be accepted, they have to meet the planning board's rules and regulations in order to do so. If there are any issues with the roads, let me back up. Only the planning board can move this. So when they are going to move it at town meeting, and if there are any issues with the roads, then they will not move it at that time. So if there's, 4 roads on here, if 3 roads are ready and 1 road is not, they will only move 3 roads. But they're gonna know. I unfortunately don't know
What
that.
goes into it?
It does go.
Between conservation and planning and.
And again, we have a seasoned planning board. They've been around, they know what they're doing,
Yeah.
so I just have confidence in what they do.
Okay. So, if we go back and start to look at the,
What's that threshold?
the capital budget items. So what's discussion around the transfer station building?
600 grand, including the 150 we already spent.
We already spent 150?
Spent 150 to do the site work.
The site work?
Well, no. It was, I thought it was 100, but maybe it was 150. But it was to do the design and engineering
Yeah.
work, not the site work. So there's no actual
Well,
work,
that's-
correct, but just
Like site work.
the design work, the
Plans.
engineer, and also to price, to get some bids for it. So, look, I'm a pretty frugal person, so it's hard for me to say $462,000 is not a lot of money. And I understand where some people are concerned about the amount. In my personal opinion, I think it's a lot of work to be done for that amount. And we all know where we are right now in construction costs. The one thing I will tell you is, off the top of my head, there's about 20% contingency built into this because there's such a variableness, I mean, you know, in construction materials. And so it's very well possible that once we get hard bids, that I might come in at 350 or 360, and then everybody's a lot happier. But this isn't just for a building. It's to demolish the existing building. It's to put a brand-new building, not necessarily in place because it has to be moved. It's gonna need some new footings for it. There's gonna be a brand-new septic system. There's going to be lighting installed that's gonna require underground utilities. And there's gonna be some electrical and plumbing work that has to be done because it's being tied into another building. And the existing building will obviously will be removed. So, I don't know, when I look at the amount of site work, the septic system, the other items that are going with it, I could easily think that $350,000, $360,000 is a legitimate cost. And based on where we are today, we know that there's some inflation in that. And we're just trying to be prepared for it.
Well, you're also putting in a whole new security system,
That is true.
cameras,
Correct.
and a new generator.
That is correct.
Because the generator that's there is no good.
That is
Did
correct.
they ever think of putting a trailer in there? Leasing a trailer and putting it in? Wouldn't that do the same?
No,
It wouldn't do the same?
no, it has to tie into a septic system. You gotta have a septic.
Is it because it's a difficult site for septic?
No, not where they're gonna put it.
I don't think so. I mean, there's
There's one person working there, right?
one person.
I
well,
just-
There's one full-time employee there for the town.
And what's
There
the
are several
building gonna look
volunteers
like?
on and off.
Is it a big building or?
Say that again?
Looks like this.
Something like that. Sorry, let me make you not tip your head.
That kinda looks like a trailer,
Yeah.
prefab trailer or something.
yeah, I think is it a modular?
Modular,
Yeah.
that's the word I want. Yeah, so that
But
makes
I
sense.
just, I don't
Yeah.
understand I know costs are up, but it was just the year before, I had a septic system for my home and had the design and everything, and it was $40,000 for a 4-bedroom home.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I wouldn't think they would need the same volume of septic.
How
If-
close is your septic to your house?
It's way back. I had to have 3 tanks and a pumper, and it's way behind my
That's what
house.
this will be. There'll be a pump from the building all the way to the septic down by the leaf pile.
So,
Yeah,
Good-
that's
it's a
about as
good
far
75
away as
feet.
mine. Mine is that far away.
so I voted no at the meeting. Largely just because of the total price. Like, there has to be an alternative.
Is there gonna be any savings on our rubbish removal? I mean, is there anything
No.
special about
No, that's going
doing
up.
something
Need
better
an
for
architect if
recycling
it's a
or?
modular building.
I don't know.
I mean,
It's a lot of
David,
money.
I think he, not to say that you moved it along, but, I guess if you go in there, there's a lot of mold. People have to work there for 4 days a week. Now, again, I'm with Jeff. I believe I said no, but it did pass because, you have a
I'm not
person that has to be out
yeah.
there.
You can see.
It's for cleanup, it's for changing the design, and it will give it a longer life. These gentlemen did a nice job, kind of, I think, not persuading, but stating the facts, and it made sense for the majority of the capital budget. I think there were a handful of us, a low percentage, that said no just because of the cost, but
What's
It's
the
something
life
you
of the
can-
building? Like, how long will it last? Do you know? Do you have an estimate?
This building
This
will
one's
last much longer than the one that's there. The one that's there is stick-built.
How old is the one that's there? Do we know?
So, they redid it when I first moved to town 40 years ago.
Okay.
And that's why I understand we need it. I understand it's coming close to unsafe work conditions, and I'm not wishing that
No, we
on
don't want
anybody.
that to happen, certainly.
I am just stuck on the overall cost.
Yeah.
It's just, it seems like for a 1-2 person need, there has to be another way to do it, and maybe there's not, and, you know.
I just have one question. I see a lot of costs for design, site review. If you don't, when you buy a modular building, just go in a catalog, don't you, and say, that's the one I want.
I think they did. I mean, that's the.
But why do we
prefab.
need all this design and 20,000
So that
for
it fits, I
design?
believe, if, you might be able to correct me a little bit better, but I think there are some generators and some electricity that runs through that runs the apparatuses that are out there that
The
needs to be
building, well,
reconfigured.
the building's 163 on the quote, right?
That's not unreasonable, I don't think.
163.5,
Yeah.
no. Site work was 100,000. It just says demo, slab, utility hookup, guardrails, lighting, repaving. So it's a facelift for
Right.
the whole property as
Right.
well, right?
Yeah.
There was a septic quote around 27, which is, I think, in the ballpark. I've had one done in the last few years. 6, 7
27,000?
years. Yeah.
That's reasonable.
Mine was more than that.
And there's a couple of contingencies right there that basically total, I'm rounding, right, but we're at 30, 45. You know, 10% design and pricing contingency, and then a 5% escalation of cost in there. So I mean, there's buffers, as David said,
Yeah.
in there and in place. And then the development costs are, you know, design and bidding 20, engineering, construction admin 10, like some of this stuff.
Well, the
I
building's
just-
not going exactly where this building is, for starters.
Mhm.
It's coming forward. Which
Yeah,
means the
I
traffic-
assumed that
which
everything
means the
was gonna be
will
traffic
rearranged.
reflowed, yeah, I just assumed all that, but it still seems like a chunk of money.
So Jim, you're doing this every day. What do you think about this price?
I'm sorry?
I said, you're doing this stuff every day. You're in construction. What do you think about this price?
I think it's a little high, but I know what's going on in the world right now.
Mhm.
And the way things are going. Let me give you an example. My son bought a house on the Cape. Now, he's renovating it. He wants to have the sheetrock and plaster.
Mhm.
The guy on the Cape cannot buy plaster or sheetrock on the Cape.
Yeah.
On the Cape,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Okay? He drove to New Hampshire to get 6 bags, all the way to Seekonk to get another 6 bags. And in both cases, they were the last bags that each supplier had.
Mhm.
Sheetrock is a difficult problem also. Nobody has the stock, and it's becoming very difficult. And I don't disagree with David. I hope the price does come in lower. But the way things are going right now, I wouldn't guarantee it.
Yeah, I don't even know if, are we even gonna get
I
somebody?
mean, I guess
to be able to
you
build
were
it?
on the committee.
Mhm.
Who am I to say you didn't do your homework?
No, you have a
did
right to
it,
question it.
but you did
Yeah.
your homework, so I have to.
You live it every day.
Yeah, And I just, that furthers the point that, is there a temporary solution that can be in place for a year or two that would augment some of the costs? And I don't know.
But what is the temporary solution?
You put a tree, well, you need a
I mean,
septic.
the mold is
You
growing
could
up
put
the
a-
walls about
Right,
2
so
feet.
you-
Yeah, you
put
can't
Johnny
really
on the
have
spot,
someone
I
work.
guess,
We can't
right?
Put a
put
construction
people in
office
an
in there, you
unsafe-
can put something else in there to come up with a way. I think this was, just my opinion, this was thought through, that this is what we'd really like to have, and this is it. This isn't necessarily tied back to,
Do you think that this was done just to have the Cadillac building there?
no, I don't think this is a Cadillac building,
Right.
but I don't think it was done,
I'm open to whatever
no, I'm
is
just, you know,
best for the people that work there. I've been in the building, and as soon as you open the door, it stinks.
and
Yeah,
there's
that's
not,
Well, it's gotta
bad.
go.
there's not a doubt in my mind that the person needs to get out of that building. Whether
Yeah.
they need to get into a temporary trailer for a while, until prices come back down, whether we find a way to knock down the building, put another building up in the same spot where we're not redesigning and spending the other $100,000. Those are all
You're
things
still
that I
gonna get
think.
rid of the slab even if you put another building there. Either way.
Right, so but my point is, if you knock that down, wipe out the slab, put a new slab there, now you're not paving, not redoing
I
guardrails, all
understand
that
your
other
comment,
kind of stuff.
yeah.
So I think it was done probably with a great look at the future and trying to figure out what we need. But we're trying to build something at the highest construction cost, you know,
Yeah.
in a long time.
Just to, to be clear, there was 9 of us that were voting.
Yeah.
There were 2 of us that said no to the building, and the other 7 said yes.
So I just want to make sure everybody has the facts. So when we do a design, Mo, what their job is, because it does have wetlands there, so the designer up front has to make sure where he says or she says the septic system can go will actually fit. They run through a whole bunch of different scenarios with where you would put the building, how it would fit, so that way you don't change everything that's going up there. And again, stay outside the borders of the 50-foot
Right.
no touch and
Yeah.
all that. So
Right.
all of that has been done, and that's what they came up with, was this project proposal. Now, all they do at this point is they give you what they would determine realistic pricing guides. And again, as Jeff has said, with some buffers.
Right.
The buffers in this is actually higher than normal. Normally, it's not that high, but we know there's reasons why they've done that. So the process is, if this were to get approved, we then actually have to formally go out to bid. So that's a full bidding process, RFP process, people
Right,
have to
right.
bid, you're gonna get multiple quotes. And it may come in lower, it may come in on that dollar, it may come in higher. We just don't know.
Right.
And I think that Jeff, because he and I have talked about this multiple times, we all agree. I've been up there, and I went up there recently. The building does have to be replaced. There is no doubt that we would rather be doing it when costs are lower than where they are today. But we just can't continue to put our employees in that building.
Right.
And yes, we could bring in a temporary trailer. Maybe that's something, if the town wants to look at, we can. But I will tell you, in my opinion, what will happen. The temporary trailer's gotta have a bathroom, and it's gotta have a shower. I've gotta hook water and power up to it. There's not a lot of space. So we're gonna put an extra trailer up there, it's gonna cost us 15 grand. I'm just throwing
Is
out a
there
number.
power and water up there now?
Well, yeah, because it's
Yeah.
feeding into the existing building, but
Yeah.
now you're gonna have to spend money to feed it into the
move
other
it.
Sure.
building.
Yeah.
And then a year from now,
Well, it's
maybe
throwaway.
instead of 460, it's 380. Maybe it's not, we don't know, but sooner or later we'll have to do something. And if it's, and I promise you, there'll be some criticism to say, if we keep paying for a trailer,
Yeah,
they're
it's
gonna say, well,
throwaway.
geez,
Yeah.
you thought you were saving money.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna argue that this is the number that we all had hoped. But if we all know that it has to be done, I would much rather have the authorization to go out to bid and hope that it comes in cheaper. That's my hope.
It's not a, is it a?
Keep in
it's
mind,
not-
the generator's not there for the building. It's there to keep the dumpsters running.
Keep the trash compactors going.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Which
gen-
right now, it does not do that well.
The generator is pretty, I'm uncomfortable with the current generator situation. It's
There?
Yeah,
It should have never been bought
I know. It's a,
before your time.
it is. Yes, my fingerprints are not on that one.
You are lucky.
But,
Is this
I
a
do-
borrowing item?
this is a borrowing item, so it's gonna require
It's gonna be
two-thirds vote.
two-thirds, yeah.
But the generator right now is a temporary trailer generator, which means that you cannot be hardwired in. So it's literally on a cord outside.
Oh,
And then whenever you need to use it, you have to run an extension cord to it and you bring it in, and obviously it's a large cable, but you plug it in at that point. That means when you do plug it in, the door is open, because there's no conduit. So you actually ajar the door, you're sitting inside,
Like
it's
at
in the
home,
middle of the winter.
when you're
it's
fired.
21 degrees outside, you're running
Yeah.
the heat, but the
Yeah.
door is open.
Yeah.
And because it actually sits in a low area, is that if you have any snow or water, it's running right where that line is coming in.
Right.
I honestly didn't realize how bad it was until I went up there and took a look at it. And the God's honest truth is, I actually feel embarrassed that we've asked an employee to work in those conditions. I really mean that. I didn't know. And as soon as I saw it, and Jim is entirely right, when you walk in there, you don't want to stay in there that long.
Yeah.
The smell is that bad. So I know everybody agrees it has to be replaced.
My outhouse on Sugar Island in Maine is cleaner than that frickin'.
Nobody's happy with the pricing, but
It's a scary
it's the
thought.
world that we live
It
in,
is.
and hopefully it comes in a little bit less.
okay.
So,
So what,
I agree with you. I think it's a lot of money. But I wish whoever's gonna be taking the bids, whether it's David or Chris, I wish them the best of luck. Because trust me, all of us here are gonna say, if this comes in higher, we're all gonna look at it and say, what are you guys, nuts? Or if it comes in lower, we're gonna say, oh, thank God.
Well, like, I mean, we
It's a
can't,
flip of a coin.
Yeah, well,
if we vote this amount, or the town, I guess, votes this amount, then they can't go over that.
Well, why can't we move it to the town to vote on it?
Yeah, we can.
Well, we
Well,
are.
it's definitely gonna go there, because even if you all vote against it,
understand
it's
that,
definitely
but
gonna.
it's
you
still
understand
going to
my
the
comment.
town,
I
right?
do.
We can all say, you know, listen, we understand the situation on this, but we would like to move it to the town for them to make our decision.
The one.
And we can all vote individually, because we're all
Yeah.
We're
Yes,
all
yeah, and
residents.
that's what will be in the.
And I think that that's a safer way to go.
Um,
I'm not afraid to say no.
I know that, but
One item to remember is that because this is an FY '23 appropriation, it cannot be spent until after July 1st. So that means it won't be bid until after July
After
1st.
July
Bid.
Correct. So because it's usually you give a 30 to 45 day, they're gonna have to still specify some items in that bid. And I'm a big believer in human nature. July 1st is going to come, and the designer who's gonna do the bidding is gonna have vacation time and all. My point is, this probably doesn't get realistically bid until August or September. That's my guess.
What was septic again,
There's a-
27?
What's in there, so there's a
27, yeah.
chance that maybe we get past some of the supply chains issues that we have, and come fall, the Fed's gonna raise interest rates a couple of more times. So there is a chance that come fall, we're gonna be able to get better pricing. Again, I may not change your opinion, but I will tell you that based on that timing, we might find ourselves in a better situation.
Okay. So,
My only thing about Jim's suggestion about leaving it to the voters is we've already voted it on the capital budget.
mhm.
So to me, I kind of feel like we've already said yes. So why would we go against? And again,
Well,
you
this
guys
is-
weren't, right, I just am trying to
Right.
understand the thinking is you had
voted to spend
we had
the money.
9 people that we kind of already said we thought this was good to bring to the,
Right.
to the
That's
town,
never
let them
comes through to
decide.
the
Yeah.
voters, so.
I mean, what
What
we
you
do
voted.
here is
What we do is recommend or not
recommend or
recommend.
not recommend.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and you say recommend 3 to 2, 5 to whatever, you know,
Okay.
so.
Right.
Just making sure.
And again, just so everybody understands the process, the selectmen have the right to place it on the warrant, they've already done that. So even if you vote 9-0 against it, it's there.
It's still there,
It's
yeah.
still gonna be there. It'll be
Right.
your recommendation. So what I would request, well, it's your decision, is that I think all the other ones that we didn't hold, I'm gonna assume is a
Is-
6-0 recommendation.
Yeah.
Correct.
These ones here take individual votes
Yeah.
on, and if it happens to be 4-2, in the book, it's going to say recommended 4-2.
Right.
All right.
So why don't we vote on this one? This is 18, I think?
It is.
Yeah. All those in favor of recommending this? Well, somebody has to make a motion, it can't be me, right?
It can be.
Oh, it
but-
can be?
But usually the chair would call for, it, nobody
Yeah.
does it, then the chair
Okay.
makes a decision.
So, do I have a motion on this one?
I move to recommend
Okay.
Article 18 as
Yes.
written.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
So we have 1, 2, 3 in favor? I think I have to vote in favor, as much as it kills me to
I
spend the
know, I
money.
know,
I
it's-
really can't have
it's not
somebody
a-
working under those conditions, so
Yep.
I think it's gonna be 4-2.
Sure. And I'm only staying with my.
I have one
that I
question
have
for
left.
David, and this is an important question because,
Can you make it easy, though?
Make it easy.
no, it's not gonna be easy.
Nice.
Well, it is easy. I mean, we need to, from my point of view, we need to start considering using our local contractors, especially for septic systems, who are willing to work with the town a little more so or better, depending on how you want to put that, than an outside contractor who's gonna come in and just say, it's gonna be 40 grand. Now, I understand there are rules and regulations, I'm not denying that,
Mhm.
but I think it's something for us to consider. This is clear cut. This is a walk in the park. A guy like either Tommy Snow or, any of the, Kruger, or what's his name?
Mr. Azak does it.
Huh?
One of the
Azak.
Azaks does it.
There's 4 guys.
Yeah.
Any one of them, I'm sure would be happy to bid this, and they're more than capable of doing it.
Are
and
they
doing
free
it
to
right.
bid it, or are
They're on the
they
list.
not
It's-
because they live in
No,
town?
they're free to bid it.
Okay, so they can bid it.
But they have to bid it.
Right.
I mean, Jim's, I fully agree, all these, they don't just live in town, their businesses operate in town, so they're paying tax dollars. So
Exactly.
it would be really good if we could utilize their services, but I mean, I've gone through all the procurement trainings, and that's a requirement. We'll bid it, and if Tommy wants to bid on it, and Tommy comes in the lowest, then he's going to get the bid. But unfortunately, if he comes in not the lowest, we have to go with the lowest bid.
Yeah, you gotta go with the lowest bid. You're
So
absolutely right.
I hope all four of them bid on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah, what's his name was the other guy, I can't remember his name.
Okay. So the next one is the,
Forty-two?
The
Western.
Western Star
Yeah.
truck.
Yeah,
Article
Western
19, yeah.
Star truck. So what's the scoop on this truck? Is this a plow truck?
Yep.
This is
Yep.
a dump,
Big plow
big
truck.
dump, a
Yeah,
dump
it's
truck or just a plow truck?
I don't think it's as big as the one they already have, though.
That is correct. So, a couple of years ago, we went and we bought 10-wheelers, which are very large. These are still, this is a 6-wheeler. It will
Six-wheeler.
replace a 6-wheeler. You know, they're plow trucks, so when the one that it's replacing, I think it's a 2005, so it's 17 years old.
Mm.
And it's not the age.
It's with the salt. that's-
Correct.
Yeah.
The whole underneath is all rotted.
Rotten. Yeah.
So,
And that's not a function of, they're like,
but it's
not
not
where they're
just the truck
parking it,
either.
right?
I'm sorry.
The
Plow.
rust
Yeah,
isn't
it's
a
all the
function of where they're
It's a
parking it,
sander.
right?
Yeah.
No, it's because they're
The whole
dropping
nine yards.
sand.
Yeah.
They're dropping-
It's everything they
The
need.
sand just eats it.
Oh, that's
So,
what it is?
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
so this is a sander plowed truck with a obviously oversized bed, and I mean
just like the others.
yeah, the truck's
All the
just
bells and whistles,
Yeah.
Hot
well,
lights.
Hot
you
tub.
just have to replace the other truck.
Yeah, the back bed's a hot tub.
Stereo.
I don't wanna see who's in it, but that's okay.
No, you
It's
know,
really, you look at these numbers and you're like, oh.
Chris does very well
That's
keeping
what
the
it
trucks
is, I
going
know.
as long as he can. I know he
included
does.
several pictures of the
Yeah.
Yeah.
state of the other one.
Oh,
in
really?
that, too.
Is it pretty?
You know,
Yeah.
and again, maybe I've just become institutionalized, but
Yeah.
when I just look at the size of the trucks and all the stuff that comes with it, I know it's $250,000, but honestly, we just spent $100,000 more than that for an ambulance. That doesn't come with a plow, right? It's not even four-wheel drive.
Maybe it should.
And I'm not,
reality,
you know,
yeah.
there's nothing you could do, that's what they cost.
Yeah.
It
I
is.
just think for $230,000, like, you're getting a lot of truck for that amount of money.
And what's the lifetime usually? 10 years, 12?
Well, this one, our current one's
Well,
17.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You get
mean,
17 years out of
Get
that
10
truck.
years, you're probably doing well,
Yeah.
but, you know, you gotta consider what we have for weather.
Yeah.
And we've been very fortunate over the past 3 or 4 years, actually more than that. It's been
2015
7
was a
years
bad
since we've
one.
had a lot of snow. So, you know, the guys are still doing a lot of sanding and salting, I'm not gonna deny that.
Right.
But they're not doing it anywhere near like they were 7 to 10 years ago.
No, no.
So we ought to, you know, we have to really consider all that.
The
And
other,
that's what gives the life of the truck more time.
Well, again, I
road.
have to figure when DPW looks at what they need, that they know what they're talking about.
Right.
What do I know about a truck?
I talked to Sean a little bit about this
Yeah,
in respect to, you know, after they go out and salt for, 12, 14 hours, do they have an opportunity to power wash the whole,
Get the
rear end of
salt
these
off,
trucks
yeah.
so that they can get all that salt off? And he said they do.
yeah,
They do the best they can.
yeah.
Because they
In the freezing
understand.
cold weather.
Like
the
the
other
Navy.
mention was just the additional roads that have been added onto the town. and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
need for
routes are
more.
long.
And we're at the beginning of that.
yeah.
Right.
So do we have a motion on this one?
Sure,
Um,
yes.
Sorry?
I said yes, I'd make it,
What's the motion?
Motion
to move it,
I'll
Okay,
second it.
to recommend.
yes.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Second? Did you want a second? Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We all said
Anybody
aye.
opposed? No? Okay, so that was 6 to, what are we, 6?
6-0.
6 to 0. How many people are here? Okay, the next one is 20, and this is for a new tractor. Very nice. What's the scoop on the old one? Or is this new?
Brought it out.
Well, so, his original, he had two proposals. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first was 32,000, and then this one
Whoa.
here for 81. Is that what it was?
81 here,
32,000, correct.
Yeah.
So, So the,
That's a big difference, 32 to 81.
there is.
Yeah, a few
Um,
dollars there.
So the tractor itself is in good shape. However, the swing arm that attaches to it so you can cut all the brush is entirely rotted and broken.
Okay.
It's junk. It's literally it's valueless.
Okay.
It would cost him $32,000 to buy a new swing arm. However, the swing arm will attach to the old lawnmower, and because it is not rated for that, they will not warranty it. So we can spend $32,000.
For a
In
swing arm.
theory,
No, it will.
we think that we can attach it ourselves and use it, but if it doesn't work, we're stuck with it, which is kind of silly.
Yes.
Or, what we can do is we spend $81,000, we get another tractor with the swing arm, everything will be under warranty, and the benefit to that is we keep the old
And
tractor
you
as
can
well.
do straight mowing with that one.
You could do straight
yeah.
mowing with it, you could still push stuff with it. So now, what I like about it is that from a productivity standpoint, where we only had one tractor, I
Get
now
that
can have
one.
two people
Yeah.
on tractors doing work throughout town. And I get to keep the other tractor at no cost. So, to me, I think it just makes sense to get the new tractor with the new attachments to it, make sure it's done right, and not potentially waste $32,000.
Makes sense.
And I
Okay.
think the entire capital
Plus, the old
budget-
tractor still has a bucket on the front,
Exactly,
Right.
and it has a mower deck on the back.
correct.
And they're both in good enough shape that they can consistently use them either or, depending on the time of season.
100%
Okay.
right.
So I agree with David. This is a big plus plus.
The entire capital budget was in agreement.
Okay, good.
So do we have a motion on this one?
I'll make the motion we recommend.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I
Second.
second. Okay.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. The next one is a Harley Davidson motorcycle.
Not a lot of options on this.
Do we have, I've never seen one.
Yeah, well, they're out there.
Uh,
I haven't seen them close, but I've seen them.
It's too.
I've never
one or two.
seen
Yeah,
one.
I've seen
We can change that tonight, one phone call.
You can phone
Oh,
a friend.
I don't know if
I've never
anybody's
seen
done
it.
that.
I've
I've
seen
never seen one. And I mean, I've lived here for 40 years. I've never seen
I mean,
a
do
West
we
Bridgewater
do-
motorcycle.
Well, that is a
I live on
testament to your
106.
driving
You think they
skills.
go by once a
Well, they're probably going so fast, you know what I'm saying?
it. Nice.
Come on it, lady.
So we have one.
Okay.
So we have a 2005. So the 2005, the original request from capital budget was for $17,500 because he was going to receive $3,500 as a trade-in for the existing motorcycle. I think that capital budget members can attest to this. I argued profusely there that I didn't think that that was the right approach. Okay, it's a 2005 Harley that would be replacing, and I'll spend $3,500 myself to buy it, right? I mean, Harley should be worth more. I know Jim has more experience with Harleys than I do. But I said what I would rather do is fund all of it, go out to bid, and see if I can sell the Harley that we have 05 for more than $3,500. If we can't, then we'll trade it for the 35. I mean, no harm, no foul. But this is to replace the 2005 Harley. It overall is in good shape. There are some issues with it, although I don't want to oversell it. They're not major issues. But the newer bikes are a little bit better. They ride better. They make the guys a little bit safer that are on it. And you know, I think the police chief just does an excellent job. He understands it better than I do. He wouldn't make a recommendation if it didn't make sense. And so I feel like it's something we should do.
Yeah, there's conversations about the newer bikes being safer, they can drive them themselves, they don't tip over, and just thought.
No, they tip over.
Not as easily, how's that?
They have training wheels, right?
I don't know about that, I'm not a motorcycle driver, so I'm not sure.
You know what?
I'll leave that to them.
I'm all for this. The guys are gotta be safe.
Yeah, safety's important.
And it's not the guy on the bike today that you need to worry about. It's everybody else.
I'm trying to think where they would use the bike versus the cruiser.
Well, I think he was
They're on the
saying,
bikes a lot.
I
Actually,
mean, that you
I
couldn't
think they
use a
used them-
cruiser.
and David can correct me, I think they use them a lot with the pedal bikes, when they're doing their safety stuff for texting and all that stuff. You know, because they're trying to get these people to stop and
Texting
go
and
hands-free.
driving.
You know what I mean, I know they did a lot of that last month.
Yeah.
He was also saying, I believe, that if the police have a bike, it's almost kind of like a brotherhood where they can, if there were certain things that were going on, activities, they would send other bikes from different towns to support one another, which seemed to be a kind of nice thing.
Did they go to the funeral the other day, David?
I'm sure they did.
On a bike?
Yeah, I don't know if they went on the bike, but I know that we were well represented.
Yeah.
So
you-
how did the capital
you were-
budget committee vote on this one, do you know?
Yeah, I do. I believe it was unanimous, yes.
Unanimous?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. The next one, a new cruiser.
Oh,
So we've
that's
been buying
22.
cruiser.
I missed it,
Oh,
sorry.
did you put on a cruiser?
So Article 22.
Yeah, we've been buying cruisers. We still need more cruisers.
Well,
Last
again,
year, I think they asked for 2 last year.
yeah.
I only gave them 1.
When we gave them one, right?
Yeah.
So we don't add to the fleets, all we do is we replace.
Mm-hmm.
This one here, again, the committee members may recall, this one here, the 48,990, is after trade-in. We were only receiving $1,500 for a trade-in on this one, because it's just in that bad a shape.
Okay.
Um,
What year
and
is it? Do you
I
know?
don't.
2018 on the
Yeah.
sheet.
2018?
He's trying to save money.
That's not that old.
Well, I think he went back to 2018 because the models have changed recently and they like the older models. So they found this somewhere.
Oh, I'm
Like
sorry.
the town.
Am I misunderstanding? Are we trading in a 2018 or we're
Yeah.
buying a
trading
2018?
in.
We're trading in an 18.
4-year-old cruiser.
The 18 is the one that he bought out on Nantucket of the Vineyard.
That is correct. So we
Right.
saved some money, you bought it used.
Oh, we
at the
bought it
time.
used.
And he saved a ton of money buying it from the
So-
police out there.
So it's
I remember it
mileage
was
that
Nantucket
drives
or
the
the
trades,
Vineyard,
usually.
Right, so I think Jim's right, it was, we bought it used so we could save some money, we got an additional 4 or 5 years out of it. Remember, when we put these bids in, we don't normally see the cars for 9 to 12 months because they get ordered and built. So in any event, he'll be replacing that older vehicle. And again, I'm not a police officer, so I'm gonna tell you what they say. I'm not an expert on this, but they feel like the miles on the vehicle is always 3 times what's on the odometer, because it does a lot of idling and a lot of sitting while it runs. So if it says 100,000 miles, and the engine and the transmission has close to 300,000 miles on it. That's always been the general rule. Again, I'm not a police officer, but it's always been the general rule. Again, I think that if the police chief, first of all, if we're only getting $1,500 for 2018, that tells you something.
Yeah.
And the chief is telling me it's in rough shape, so,
It's time.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this one?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
The van,
Grant, I think we were okay on.
the van.
So what about the van, council on aging van? Are they using the van? Are they picking people up and taking
as
them
much.
places with
Not as
COVID? Or is that starting to pick back up, or?
I believe she was saying there's some holes in the chassis and they weren't using it as much because of the age of it, and that they had another bus that they were leasing, so they were not using this very often, if at all.
Okay.
How old is the old one?
it's a 2010.
Oh.
And this one, even though a little smaller, will do the job that they're expecting.
Yes, she said this one's been out of service since 2021.
Yeah.
But we feel like we're gonna have enough use to buy one, is my question.
So look, I think this is where, as a town, you just have to determine the role of government. I think the 2010 only has about 30,000 miles on it, so it doesn't do a lot. But what it does do is important to the seniors who have to get around. And because we own it, we also allow the school department to use it whenever they have to transport people as well. So with the one that we have under lease, under the BAT program, BAT, Brockton Area Transit, can only be used for seniors. It cannot be used for any other purpose. So we have more utility with this van. In the whole definition of government is that government exists to provide services that the private sector would not do because it's not profitable. And I'll be the first one to admit that $56,000, although I think actually cheap for an 8-passenger van, to be honest with you, is not something that we're going to put more than 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 miles a year on. But when we are transporting people in need, that's a decision as a town you have to make. I'm going to use this example, and please don't, I know it's not apples to apples, but the United States has trillions of dollars invested in nuclear weapons, and we never say we hope to use it. You do it for the reasons that we have it as a deterrent. But that's the role of government, is that we're not always efficient. A business would never run out and spend $56,000 for 3,000 miles. They wouldn't provide the service. They would just say, we're not going to do it.
It's not profitable.
Good explanation.
But, you know, almost 20% of our population, about 18% of our population is over 60 at this point, and the whole purpose of the Council on Aging is to provide that service. So if you don't want to provide the service, that's okay, then don't buy the van.
Well, but we have the leased van, so that's where I'm struggling. Do we need two?
The lease
Yes.
van, yeah, the lease van just has limitations on its use.
Yes,
This
Okay.
just
need
provides
to.
them more availability.
Are these handicapped accessible?
I have to assume that they are.
This one is in the
Yes,
back.
it is.
There's a,
Because that's what's
Yeah.
probably most
This is a good-
important.
yeah,
It'd
It's
be
got a
most useful for,
yeah, in the back of it, there's a
okay,
lift. and
for
then-
people who
Here.
cannot get out at all.
Yeah.
This is a
Okay.
good buy for the money.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot of money
If
for
you
an
go out like a
8-passenger
guy like me
van
and
that's
look to buy a new
handicapped.
van right now, you can't get a van or a pickup truck under 60 grand.
Yeah, no, I know.
Buy a
And
mini-
that's with no seats.
I buy a minivan for 56 grand right now.
Yeah.
You can't, right? And this
Right.
is, so, I think the pricing is good. It's
Yeah.
a matter of the service that you want to
Right.
provide. We've always provided it, so I think that's why the Council on Aging is saying that they believe in providing the service. The last 2 years, for obvious reasons, it's been less use,
Yeah.
but we all hope that the last 2 years is not gonna
Indicative of the future.
Exactly,
So would they get rid of the lease, or they feel like they need two?
I know we will get rid of the existing one. Whether or not we retain the leased one going forward, I don't know.
Okay,
I mean, I think that'll be a policy decision at a later date.
okay. Any other discussion on this? Anything else raised at the committee?
Unanimous vote.
Unanimous, okay. So do we have a motion here?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
I think that was it, wasn't it?
No, we had the seal
Oh,
code
yeah.
and then the network.
Yeah, so the seal coat, I don't recall what shape the parking lot is over there, or
It's due.
Yeah.
it's due?
It's been a while, and I think they're just thinking older folks who are walking, making sure that it's a steady space. There's not
Extend the
cracks.
life, too.
Exactly, extend the
And if
life.
I can't
It's-
see the lines, I don't know where to park.
It's $6,500, so I just,
Okay.
you know,
It's due, it's past due.
again, we all voted unanimous that it was something that we should do.
Okay,
Yep.
so motion on this one?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. I think we said we really have to do this 24,000, right? We don't have another option at this point?
Article 27, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
We're not
you know,
going,
number one, I don't know the whole piece, right?
okay,
But you being on the version of the software we're on right now is not sustainable.
mhm,
So we can get a couple more years on the newer version.
So we're not throwing good money after bad, though, by not replacing the server itself?
Well, that would be a significant increase, I'm sure,
Okay.
over the 24. And I think you gotta go with, Ed knows what he's doing, and
Okay.
That's what I have to figure. It looks like every year we're shoveling a lot of money into network upgrades, and,
Yeah, it's.
but I don't
Technology
understand, I don't
does not-
understand
it's
all
not
that.
static.
it's a short shelf life in general,
Yeah.
though, you know.
Right. Okay, so do we have a motion on this one?
Move to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 6-0, okay.
Generator.
Yeah, so the school generator. So if we're having rumblings, I think, about replacing this school, does it make sense to replace the generator at
Yes.
this point?
Yes.
Does
Okay.
every school have one?
Every school has to have one.
Has to have one.
So
Law.
if we end up replacing this school, that we can't get by on the generator that we have, or do we have any
Generator
desire?
they have
Be-
is dying,
Be
if not
years,
dead.
4 or 5 years before that, whatever.
They were
For the
talking
school?
that the
Yeah.
new generator is actually somewhat portable, as I remember the conversation was going, where if there was some type of change that we could somehow move it, not to say that it's on wheels and it would be easy, but it is portable.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so, the existing generator there is defunct. It's not working.
Okay.
So there is no backup. So I think they need a generator. And what the superintendent stated was that this generator that they priced out, spec'd out for what a new building would be. So the theory is that, they would be able to actually move it if they had to. So again, I don't know the specs, I don't know, but they need a generator,
Okay,
and if the generator can be repurposed to a new building, they need a generator.
okay.
Yep.
Do we have a motion on this one?
Moved.
Second?
Oh, she was asking about, I think, what did we say? Yeah, it was approved, well,
100,
Yep.
everybody?
yep, everyone said yes.
Yeah.
Unanimous was the word I was missing.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so the next two are around HVAC and boilers. Like, this is a brand-new high school, I guess maybe it's not brand new, but why would we need to be replacing this stuff
Boilers
at
died.
this point?
Dead.
I think you had a lot, because the way
Boiler
it was
dead.
configured.
So
Died,
was it
they
not
haven't been using it most of the
maintained,
year.
or was it not maintained, or what happened to it?
It was
Is
maintained.
just,
It's just
how
Well,
old
why
is
do
it?
they-
poor manufacturer.
How old is the school?
8 years.
Shouldn't go out in 8 years.
I know, that doesn't
East
seem
Bridgewater lost
long.
theirs in one.
I know, but something's,
So
Nothing
you're
you can do
telling us
about it.
we're
When
lucky,
it-
right?
When it dies, Mo.
what?
There's
the
3
whole-
boilers, there's 3 boilers at the school.
What dies in it, though? One component, the
Yeah.
whole thing?
Just
Well-
about everything died.
I mean, 8 years, life is terrible.
I know. But you gotta remember, they run all
Not much.
the time. All the time.
So the existing boiler system is there, like Jim said, there's 3 boilers. This boiler here, we'll call it just boiler number 2, is not running. So boiler 1 and boiler 3, which is meant to be 1/3, is now each doing 50%.
So are we gonna lose those two?
So the concern is that by adding additional stress onto boilers 1 and 3, because number 2 is down,
Well, of course,
it's gonna end up
yeah.
being long-term more long-term expense. So in reference to the boiler, that's the way I understand it.
Okay.
During the off hours, when the kids are not in school, they rotate. They are an automatic rotation. So it maintains temperature at the school.
So what about
When
the,
everybody
You got
is in
summers,
school,
vacation.
and the doors are constantly being opened
Yeah.
and closed, all 3 boilers are running.
so is it, are we to expect that we're gonna see the other two go too now? Like, is this just a bad apple, or is
Hopefully
this?
not, but, you know, you're asking a question that I can't answer.
Mm,
What, yeah, you'd have to read the fine print on guarantees and,
Not necessarily related to this conversation, but what makes these items show up here versus just within the school's budget, maintenance budget?
It's not, they just don't
Outside
include it in their
expense.
budget.
Should
So I
they?
don't know what they have for a maintenance budget, meaning for annual maintenance. From a capital budget, we just have a capital budget overarching policy, which is anything that would be a one-time expense that exceeds $5,000, the town would consider a capital budget item. That doesn't preclude somebody from buying it in their budget if they can. But that's from our standpoint, that's how we determine it. I don't know what the school's internal policy is.
I believe it's the same. When it gets to a certain level, they go to capital or to the town.
So what's the difference between this boiler heat exchanger and an HVAC, control upgrade? So what is that, a control upgrade? Do we
You
know
want
what that
this-
is?
He had fun with this one, and I'll let you explain. Something about the switches were outside, which made me chuckle a little.
All the AC units are up on the roof. And when
Mhm.
the school was built, there was a lot of discussion, and I don't recall if David recalls all this discussion or not, that we would have preferred at that time, 8 years ago, that we put all of the controls in this room where the furnaces are.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody agreed to it.
Hmm. Where are
Nobody
the
in a committee
controls?
of like 30 people
Where are the controls?
at the units on the roof. So now, they've been getting beat up by the weather,
Hmm.
and
Imagine.
it's time to it's time to move them.
I couldn't
And
believe
that's,
it.
and that's the problem. It's got nothing to do with maintenance, it's got nothing to do with, you know.
It was the design.
This
Design.
location, it's just a poor design.
And so do they not work, or we just
No,
decide
they're
we want to
working,
now
it's
move
just-
them
it's time
inside?
to It's
They gotta
time,
move it.
it's time to relocate them and bring them up to, and upgrade them at the same time.
Okay. So do we have a motion on Article 30, which is the heat exchanger?
Somebody else's turn.
I will move to approve both.
Yeah.
How's that?
Okay, all right.
Second.
Okay, so we're gonna do them both together. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
And Gina, just so you know, for the minutes, it's all recommended, it's not approved.
Yeah,
Just
it's
for rec-
recommend.
So,
Yeah, I mean, this is
Okay.
all still going before the,
good call.
Because
Yeah.
that's what's it's gonna be listed that way in the.
Recommended, yeah. We
So-
don't have approval.
I think on the water department ones, we were okay with those, right?
yep.
Okay. And then, so I guess let's do all of that stuff, right? And then maybe we'll talk about 37
What are we doing?
and 38. Should we vote on everything through 36, sort of as a
Did we
unit?
have any more holes in that?
Well, I don't think I have any more
I'd
written.
say so. I think
I think
we're
that
good.
was it.
Okay, so you want to do 37 and 38 together as
Yeah,
well with the whole
sure.
thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
No, done.
okay. So do we have a motion?
Motion to recommend.
To
Sounds like an
recommend
awful long motion.
all of it?
All of the articles that we didn't vote independently on.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
do we
Second.
have, okay, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No.
So what I will capture, just to make sure that from a clarity standpoint, is that I will list recommended unanimously 6-0 on every article except for the transfer station one, which will show 4-2.
Right.
I think
Yep.
so. I think that's where we landed
Yep.
after all that.
Are you okay?
No, it's good discussion though, and I think it's good that we all understand it so that when we go in front of the town, we
Yeah, I
can
mean,
say,
we
say
may
why
not,
we
may not like it, but that's reality.
Yeah,
all
some of
different
those were really a little bit reluctant, but.
Yeah.
No, they always are. I mean, it's a lot of money.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
You know, your
Okay.
septic system goes, do you really want to spend that money? You gotta do
I
it.
know,
That's right.
I know, when we,
Exactly.
when we did our house.
That's exactly how I felt at home.
Exactly.
Yeah, when we did our house, we put a boiler in.
My next door neighbor has
It's like-
these open.
Nobody looks at the boiler. Spent all that money and nobody comes in and
I
goes,
know.
wow, what a great boiler you have. All right, so, what about the FinCom book message?
Excellent.
I thought that was well done.
Oh.
Very well done.
Thank you. Anybody have any changes they want to make? Anything you're uncomfortable with?
No,
No.
I'm
I
fine.
Oh,
like
good.
the way you show a lot of numbers in there, so
Well,
you know, town members can see.
we are the finance committee, so
Yeah.
we
Yeah, we should
probably
use a few
should use a
numbers.
few numbers, right?
There you go.
Okay,
No, that was good.
do we have a motion?
I'll move to accept.
Okay,
Second?
Second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, I think the last time we did chat a little bit about making sure we thanked Jason, is Jason, for his picture. So are we gonna be able to do that in the book?
Something on Facebook.
I'm sorry, I think we sent him a letter,
Okay,
but, I
perfect.
mean, if you want
No,
to put
that's
it in
fine.
the book too? I'm
That's
sorry, I didn't
fine.
know that.
No, no,
No.
that's fine. I just wanted to thank him because I think it was nice. And he did a nice
Oh,
job
the,
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
his
really, very
watercolor.
nice.
Color.
I
Yeah,
think it was a print.
okay,
So,
I think that's it.
yeah, I was gonna say, so next steps, technically you guys have done at this point. I will finish, I have to have the book completed by Monday, so, I'll finish that. I'll probably end up being here Saturday, but we'll finish it this week. We'll get it to the printer next week. It takes about a week for a turnaround, and it's already May.
Came up fast.
It does,
Are we gonna have any issues with the printing? Because I saw through something else that there's a paper shortage now, so have we checked with the printer?
I have not, but Linda's
May
usually.
want to
Yeah, all right, well, all the comments, I mean, the,
socialize that a little bit?
PDF to everyone's phone?
Just saying.
So, no, well, I guess we'll find out.
Okay.
I don't know. But, you know, congratulations to you guys. You guys have just put together, you just spent $42 million. And,
Ouch.
yeah, so we'll get the FinCom book done for next week. Once it's done, you guys will be able to pick up your copies. There should not be another meeting between now and May 9th. If there is, then obviously we'll have to call it, but that would be for special reasons, because you've done everything. You vote on your budget, you vote on all the warrant articles, you vote on, you know, everything is basically done at this point.
And so the
Um,
9th is town meeting as a reminder.
May 9th is the
What
town
day
meeting.
is that,
It's a
Monday?
Monday.
Monday.
The meeting
6:30.
starts at 6,
6.
but I will post you guys for 5:30.
Right.
So that way, if there's any last-minute conversations or discussions, you're covered by the open meeting law if you want to take a vote or you
Okay.
need to do something.
Is it in the auditorium or in the in the gym?
I believe it's in the auditorium.
Okay.
Oh, I do have an email to forward, so the school department thanked the committee, so I'll send that off to everybody. Think that's it?
That's it.
Great.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you,
Second?
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We're done. Thank you.